Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about motivation. So what I find very interesting about the topic of motivation is there's this phenomenon that I notice happens a lot in people, that it's like one of those like things in life that people do that they don't realize how much it affects them until you actually start to analyze it a little bit. So when I'm working with people in therapy, there's two things that I will tell people immediately that will kill motivation. Okay. The first thing is sitting down, and the second thing is laying down. So sitting down and laying down tends to destroy any kind of motivation. So what I tend to see in my patients and clients is that when there's some sort of pattern that has to do with laying down or sitting down, it will just destroy motivation. It will kill you. So the first voice when you wake up in the morning, it's like, I don't really want to get up. That's your little kid brain activating, right? So that's your stomach going like, I don't feel like getting up. But your thoughts are saying, well, we should get up, right? So if you've been laying, for 15 minutes, well, eventually your other brain's going to be like, yo, you should get up and do something, right? Like, we should probably get up. We're being lazy. And so then the other brain will activate and kind of push it to do it. But yeah, you'll see this really interesting pattern play out where people will get home and they'll take a nap or they'll sit down because they believe that they deserve a break from working all day. But in that process of just sitting down, it can destroy motivation. I find it fascinating too that, we tend to say things like marijuana or alcohol really are like the contributing factors to, people's laziness. But it's interesting when we think about how people use these drugs, like, when you crack open a cold one, you're like literally in a lazy boy. Like, what the fuck? Like, you're literally sitting down drinking this thing. And as I said earlier, sitting down can destroy motivation. The same phenomenon can play with doing cannabis, like where you sit down and hit a bong, right? So you're sitting down at the couch hitting a bong. You don't need drugs to be lazy. If you lay down, you'll be sticking your foot up to get the remote. This is the same thing when the parent will call a child across the entire house to come get a remote because they don't want to fucking get up. Like, I don't want to get up. I'm just going to lay here and I'm sticking my foot up to get the remote. If I can't reach it, I'll get someone else. Like, that is what happens when we sit down and lay down. It literally kills motivation. It's funny too, like, you'll be out in public, right? Like you'll be at Disneyland or something. And then the kids that you're with will start telling you, like, I don't want to stand anymore. I just want to sit down and lay down. And so it's interesting that they will oftentimes ask to sit down or lay down, which is the same brain that activates when you lay down and sit down. So whenever we get down, that's the brain. That's why how many people, spouse, parent, doesn't matter, anybody, whoever lays down is already going to have a harder time getting up. Like, getting up. So when we look at patterns of behavior that, can contribute to us not being fulfilled, well, if we look back at understanding, these patterns, like sitting down and laying down, well, you'll start to notice trends within your day. This is also why I think it's interesting that guys, when they're on the toilet, they'll sit there longer, or when, women take a bath, they'll be there longer, because if you think about it, it's still the same mechanism of sitting and laying down. So one of the things I recommend people do, to help optimize their day, is they set rules for themselves where they cannot sit down or lay down unless it's going to be a timed mechanism. So like, exactly how long you're going to lay for. You already have the plan, right? Like, not just like getting a rest in. So before a rest can happen, before we sit down, it's like, I want all the productivity needs met from the day. I want to make sure that the chores are done. I want to make sure that the homework is done. Anything that's productive wise. It's like almost like, consider it like you're in a phase of your day and you can't transition to the next phase until you are ready to go. Like, you have, completed all your needs, right? So I also noticed a trend where it's easier for people to get up from laying down when it's something to do with fun rather than productivity. Like, if, let's say it's your mail. Like, you'll get mail and you'll be like, whatever, I don't want to read the mail, I don't care. But if pizza shows up, all of a sudden you're up and like, I'm ready to eat some pizza. What's up? Where's this pizza at? Hell yeah. Because you'll get up. The child brain will activate. Remember, the child brain being our gut will activate, to get some fun stuff, to get what it wants, but it's not going to activate to do productivity. This is the same reason why it's funny, like, how many people, like, you know, that I'm sure there's girls out there that know this life. They'll message, a guy will be tired, right? His whole day's rude. I'm tired all day. Da, da, da. All of a sudden you say, hey, you want to come over? And it's like, you know, all of a sudden like 10:30 at night, all of a sudden he's got this burst of energy he didn't have all day. Well, yeah, it's because that's the kid brain activating. That's a very different activator than the adult brain, right? The adult brain is, you know, what do I think I need to do? The kid brain is what I feel like I need to do. So again, sitting down and laying down will deactivate those motivators. So before you sit down and before you lay down, you need to get your stuff done. Get your productivity needs met. Try to utilize your time off as like getting your productivity done. Try to utilize the time as like, this is activation time. This is the time I get things done. This is when, and then when you finally rest, try to use rest in a transitional phase. Now, I think we've talked about this before, the different ways that rest kind of plays out. What's important to know with rest is that, well, you know, depending on what your body is looking for is going to depend on the way you should rest, right? So if your body's saying, I'm mentally done, physically done, a little bit of both, it'll kind of guide you. So that's why you like to use these transitional phases. So let's say I've had an extra stressful day, like just an extra anxious, anxiety-provoking day. Well, I might be more inclined to just want to rest and lay down. So again, I have to know, what's the plan? What's the goal? How long am I resting for? What am I going to be doing? Like, what is the big picture here? So that I don't get trapped in this little black hole of like, oh, I'll just lay down for a little bit 3 hours later. So just really be aware that sitting down and laying down are horrible mechanisms for staying motivated. So if you have this like life, you know, like typical life where you get home and you lay down because you need to take a nap, really consider like, do I really need this nap? And if I'm going to take a nap, get my stuff done that I need to get done, so that if I skip out on things I want to do, I can kind of like regulate it with myself. Like, well, I didn't do the thing that I wanted. I must have been very tired. So like, you know, your parents used to say things that were kind of toxic, like, oh, you know, like, you know, if you laid down and you didn't want to play, you must have been tired, huh? Well, you know, maybe there's some validity to that, where I genuinely am just exhausted, so I don't have the ability, the capacity to go do this other thing, right? So try to use sitting and laying down for transitional periods. Allow yourself to rest if necessary with time management skills applied. So if you're going to sit down or lay down, that's fine, as long as you have your schedule still in order, or you've also accepted that, hey, I'm done for the day, I'm tired, and you're not going to beat yourself up over doing it, right? So again, recap. Motivation killers, sitting down and laying down, okay? If you sit down and lay down, you're going to have a harder time doing things that day. Try to get your productive needs met first, then relax and enjoy, right? So again, sometimes we need to catch up on sleep. Our body needs rest before we can have fun again, because again, maybe we're kind of overexerted, overexhausted. So be aware of what you need to be supportive of your needs, okay? So, all right, guys, have a good one with the information. Again, sitting down, laying down. Watch out there. We'll see each other in the next one, and let me know if there's any other topics that you guys need support on. Take it easy. Bye. Hey, it's Sebastian again with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the dream states. I think this is kind of an interesting topic because a lot of people don't quite have a grasp or understanding like what the dream states are and like really what's going on. And so kind of to summarize it, there's two main dream states that we have that are important to know about. So the first one's called lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is the state where you're kind of like just dreaming out random stuff. Like you could be flying in a bubble, you know, talking to a baby with a top hat on. You could be an alligator, you know, fighting a war in an alien universe. So really, like, it could be anything, right? The variety of available, you know, things that you can explore with your mind are endless, right? So lucid dreaming is really about the fun dreams, like the interesting dreams, the chaotic dreams, the dreams that don't make any sense but make all the sense in the world while you're experiencing them, right? So those are ways to kind of, you know, view lucid dreaming. Now, the one that's really more impactful in people's lives, the one that I think that people tend to talk about a lot more, is REM sleep. Now, rapid eye movement sleep is this idea that, you know, like you're essentially experiencing what you're dreaming. This is like when dreams feel very real. Now, the idea behind REM sleep is that it is essentially your nightmare-provoking dream state. So, on average, you have 7 to 8 nightmares a night. Somewhere around there is what they'd say. So, those different nightmares are all tied into different things that you are stressed out about in your real life. So, what I like to think is that this is your subconscious you can't run away from. So, no matter how much you tell yourself, oh, I don't care about that, doesn't bother me, that doesn't scare me, that doesn't affect me, if it does, you will feel it. And it will put you in those environments that are going to cause you to feel that stress, that pressure from that other side. Like, oh, like you think you don't care about this? Well, I'm going to make you care about this. You're going to experience this. I'm going to put you in a position where you're going to care. So when you wake up in a cold sweat, when you wake up fearful, when you wake up stressed and anxious and overwhelmed and not doing well emotionally, all of those factors go back into this dream state, right? So what ends up happening is that when you're sleeping, there's this chemical that's produced by your body that essentially separates your brain and body from kind of working together. So your brain is sending signals to the body as if it's supposed to be working, but the body's obviously ignoring those things and not reacting, even though the message is being received that, hey, you should move around, which is why people in REM sleep are like running, hiding, fighting. When people that have a certain disorder that they can't actually activate that paralysis like chemical within their system, they actually have to like sleep in a sleeping bag, and they will get up at night and they will essentially sleepwalk into in another term, but they're actively experiencing their dream state and they physically act it out, which is why they have to live in they have to go to sleep in like a sleeping bag essentially, because they're unable to, process them. They're not able to like stay within their bed dreaming, so they have to get up and do things. So REM sleep is, to me, it's like a training ground for your brain. That's the way I would think about it. Like, if you ever seen the X-Men or anything, they have this like training room where they like take the guys in there and they gotta like put them in different scenarios and try to optimize the scenario. And it's essentially like a safe environment, but they put them in unsafe situations to kind of put pressure on them to adapt. This is essentially what your brain is doing. So I've worked with people with PTSD, all kinds of traumas. The amount of different traumas I've worked with is just like everywhere. You talk about any kind of trauma, I've probably worked with at some point. But the theme that you'll see is that if they have some kind of like, nightmare that they keep reliving, it's because there's like an underlying message in the nightmare where like they felt out of control, or they felt like they had to relive it until they optimized the situation. So if they were ever to be in this situation emotionally again, they would be prepared to handle it. That is essentially what your nightmares are doing. It's also interesting to see that nightmares adapt over time. They start out, being monster-based, being like very like primal-based and like a wolf chasing you. And then later on you get more like, what if I lose my parents, lose my friends, not accepted in social situations, never amount to anything. And then it's like, what if I lose my job, lose my marriage? And then like, what if I lose my kid? So like every stage of development, every kind of process during that growth is going to be impacted by a different type of nightmare situation. So throughout your life, you're going to experience, different types of stressors and problems based on what's happening, right? So how could I have a trauma to something I've never experienced? But then again, once I've now experienced that trauma, now my brain's going to start worrying about it and preparing me mentally for that situation to, happen in the future. So I like to think, REM sleep is this training ground for my brain to essentially establish, good consistency, good emotional regulation, good response times to activating stressors in my life, potential problems in my life that could emerge, from deficits. So just something that I wanted to teach you guys is that, another thing that's interesting about REM sleep is that if you want to work on REM sleep, if you want to work on how to act or deactivate some of these stressors, first of all, you have to be honest about what's stressing you out, and you have to make a plan to actually adjust to compensate for the deficits that you're experiencing. So people tell themselves, oh, it's fine, I'm not actually doing that bad. They kind of like make up excuses for themselves to continue, right? To like kind of continue being that way. But at the end of the day, it's very unhealthy, right? Because you're not able to move forward if you can't accept that I'm having this deficit and then actively work on preparing for future outcomes so that I can have better responses dependent on the situation that's happening. But use your dream state as a way to remind you of the things that you're worried about or concerned about. Try to use your dream state is the state where it is telling you actively, these are my concerns. These are the things I want to think about. These are one of the things that I want to worry about. So if you're having nightmares about something, try to set time aside in your life to address those things and activate yourself to become more healthier in the long run. Another thing that I think is interesting about this is like some people talk about sleep demons or paralysis demons. So what ends up happening is that the belief is that you wake up conscious before that chemical that we were talking about earlier, that paralysis chemical kicks in. So essentially, like you're in a dream state and you're awake, but you're not actually awake. So like you're conscious, but your subconscious is still like that dream state is still active. So you're still lucidly dreaming, but you're still awake. So that's why you see the paralysis demon, which is another reason why people that use methamphetamine in a very addictive way and not sleep will eventually start to hallucinate, in real life, because essentially what's happening is your brain has to sleep. That's how it like cleans the system. That's like going to the bathroom. It has to do it. And so you will get to a point where you will start actively hallucinating because you're in your dream state, but you're consciously awake. So like normally like whatever your dream state can do to make you like believe that you're saying stuff, right? Kind of like play with your mind. Well, that's what's happening now. And you're actively awake, and now you're hallucinating because you haven't slept in so many days, and that lack of sleep is now coming out as like a physical manifestation, you could say. It's actively showing itself. And so again, that comes from not sleeping. So a couple of things I just want to talk about today. Sleep, things. If you want to improve your sleep, one of the things I recommend is get your anxiety out in the day, fill up yourself with fun, and then go to bed. A lot of people try to go from being productive to sleeping. That's not going to work for you because you're actively in stress mode. It's like trying to run a marathon and then take a nap right after. Or like trying to run the mile run and then take a nap. It's just not going to happen. You got to give the body time to cool off. So again, if you're going to work out or you're going to do productive things before bed, try to consider giving yourself some fun before that so that you can alleviate that buildup. So in summary, guys, we got 2 dream states. We got lucid dreaming, which is the fun sleep state. And then we got REM sleep, which is your anxiety provoking, reliving the nightmare kind of situation to help prepare you mentally. And so just remember, like, listen to your subconscious, activate it, validate it, and learn how to work with it, right? Try to build trust within yourself so that you don't have those nightmares in the future, because those nightmares sometimes are just a lack of confidence and one's ability to manage these unhealthy situations. All right, guys, that's enough for today. I'll hit you guys up on the next video. Like, let me know next time if you guys need any other topics I need to address, and we'll see each other next time. Hey guys, it's Sebastian here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about a topic I think is important for a lot of people to have a little insight on. People that are on the spectrum, people that may have some sort of communication disability, this may be really helpful for you in the long run. I have challenges with people that are on the spectrum that tend to get comments like, why do you make everything about yourself? Or, they maybe close off people that didn't mean to necessarily close off. So this is going to help you build, open up, expand those relationships that maybe you felt at some point limited in. Now, the conversational tool that we're going to be using is called motivational interviewing. So motivational interviewing was a kind of an interview style that was created to help expand and open up people in conversation without making the conversation about the person that's looking for insight. So if I'm talking to somebody, I'll be able to talk to them in a way where I'm able to get all the information, talk about topics, and never once make it about myself, which might limit our ability to really connect with each other. So if I start making conversational points about myself, this style of making things about myself may push people away from wanting to engage with me. And so what is this? What are we looking at? Well, the OARS, OARS, the OARS, similar thing that you're using to paddle a boat, right? The OARS of motivational interviewing come down to these 4 concepts: open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. Now, if we break down these 4 things, each one of them has a significant component in the way we have conversations. Open-ended questions. The reason why open-ended questions are super important is they allow for the expansion of a topic. So if someone says, I went to a movie, you might say, what were some of your favorite parts of the movie, right? talk to me if you were one of the characters, which character did you resonate with and why? Right? So you're asking these open-ended questions to produce dialogue. If you were the director, what changes would you have made? Right? So you're asking an open-ended question. Again, if you were to create a sequel, how would the sequel go? So you're asking this open-ended question that allows them to explore, view, report back on some deeper component, right? So the goal is to ask as many open-ended questions, on an ongoing basis. Like, so you might say something like, oh, tell me some of your favorite parts of that song, you might say something like, if you were to make a similar song, what would you sing about? What would your lyrics be about? If you were to create a dance for that song, what would be some of the components of the dance? If you were to make a music video, what would your music video look like? So you're asking these open-ended questions that allow for a continued dialogue to continue between the two of you. And again, the more open-ended questions you get, the more likely you're going to get this person to continue talking in the dialogue. So open-ended questions, really good way to open people up without feeling that pressure. A closed-ended question might be like, how many, or did you do it, or did you like it, yes or no, things like that. So it's very direct, but it doesn't really allow for fluidity in the conversation. So that's the O in OARS. The A is what we call affirmations. Affirmations are kind of like compliments. They're just nice commentary. Hey, I noticed you put a lot of effort into that project that you worked on. You've been working on that for 4 days. I just wanted to say, I noticed, and I wanted to give you kudos for that effort that you've been putting in. So essentially, affirmations rely on essentially promoting positive qualities in somebody. So if you see something that you like, you mention it, you make a comment, you say something, and so it helps the person feel that you're paying attention. Right? It's like a compliment from your boss sometimes. Or, hey, I appreciate you coming and talking to me today. Hey, I know this is a difficult conversation to have, but I know that you're putting in the effort. So again, affirmations allow for people to feel a sense of connection, feel a sense of validation, and will open them up more to wanting to have deeper conversations with you. So that's really why affirmations is important. Reflections are essentially taking a topic, a conversation, and responding back appropriately. So let's say somebody says something like, hey, I've had a hard day. So when I hear a hard day, it could mean a lot of things, right? So I might say it was really difficult. You had a lot going on. It was a very busy day. It was a day where you had to overexpand your energy. You had to do more than the average. And so again, I might try to repeat back what I'm hearing. I'm going to reflect back to understand that we're on the same page. Someone say I could have a long day, right? And I say, oh, so it was difficult? And they're like, no, it was really boring, actually. It was a very boring day. Now, the goal here with reflections is to be able to understand that when you reflect to somebody, right, like when you're responding back, it doesn't matter whether you get it right or wrong. What matters is that you've been listening. At least you're in the ballpark. You're in the realm. So that's showing that, hey, I care enough about you to put it somewhat in your realm. So that's why reflections can be very powerful, to be able to show people that you're listening, but not necessarily that you're, you're judging them. So you're reflecting back at what you're hearing. You're taking their words, kind of understanding it a little deeper, and they either can say yay or nay. Either way, they still feel a sense of validation, even if they have to end up explaining it to you. At least they understand that, hey, we're in the same ballpark and realm. So that's why reflections are really important. Summaries are taking all the topics that were talked about during that time and then summarizing them and saying, hey, does this sound accurate to you? So A, B, C led to D. Okay. Like this happened, and this. And this allows for clarification. This allows for you to say, are we on the same page? Am I understanding you? Am I able to pick up what you're putting down here? And when you're able to have that deeper connection, this is when you're able to feel like you're validated by somebody else. This is you showing them, hey, I'm actually listening to the entire thing. I'm actually trying to understand your perspective. I'm trying to validate you. And at the end of it, if I can take all these topics and put them together, it still shows that I'm listening. So why is this methodology important? Well, this methodology essentially is allowing you to exhibit what we would call reflective listening. Reflective listening is when you're able to take in information and reflect back in a way where it shows you're actively engaged in the conversation. So if you are able to ask open-ended questions, if you're able to provide affirmations, which are like compliments, if you're able to respond with reflections, if you're able to show good summaries, right? And say, hey, I'm understanding this whole topic and concept. These things will allow you to get more from your conversations because people will feel validated by the things that you're saying. They can't say you're not listening. How can you not listen when you're asking the right questions? How can you not be listening when you're saying the right things back, when you're making the right compliments, when you're reflecting properly, and when you're summarizing everything that you're hearing? So a lot of my people on the spectrum that have some kind of social communication deficit, this is going to be really powerful for you because this allows you to understand conversational outcomes without feeling defeated. Because sometimes you want to relate to people by expressing a similar story or situation, and oftentimes people you talk to feel pushed away, feel that you're a narcissist, you're invalidating. Well, this conversational style will help you avoid those things because, again, it requires active listening and reflections to be able to show them that you are interested in their topic and what they have to present with. So anytime you want to consider, man, I feel like everyone shuts off to me, I don't feel like I'm not able to connect with people, use the OARS of MI. Open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. When someone is showing resistance, that they don't want to open up, that's okay. You just set the premise, you set the tone, you allow them to be in their feelings, you roll with the resistance, you try not to judge them, you accept them as they come, and you will see over time that respect, that rapport they build with you will be the catalyst that changes the dynamic of the relationship. All right, guys, hopefully these tools with MI help you out. Hopefully these OARS will help you out. Use them to your advantage. Get more from your relationships. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Remember, like and subscribe. Write a comment if you want a different video on something else. And let me know how I can support you guys, okay? Take it easy. Have a good one. Bye. Hey, guys. It's Sebastian back. And today I'm going to do a little topic where next couple of videos, I'm going to start talking about a specific topic. Each stage of brain development has its own brain, right? We've talked about this. 1 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 24. Each stage has its own brain development. And within those stages, right, there are traumas and there's ways to alleviate that distress. So what I'm going to start today with, I'm going to start with the kid brain, how it functions, how it operates, how it's traumatized, and then how to fix that. So today we're going to start with the child brain. So the little kid brain is the first brain you're ever born with, right? So the way we start out in the womb is we have a mouth, a stomach, and a butt. Now, when someone is lying to you, as you get older, where are you going to feel it? Your gut, right? When someone's angry with you, where are you going to feel it? Your gut. What about anxiety? Your gut, right? What about sadness? Your gut. Your gut is your initial first brain. This is where your little kid brain lives. I love you. I hate you. Do not leave me is your gut. This is your gut instinct, right? What did go with your gut? Go with what you feel. Go with what you're experiencing. This brain, this is your little kid brain. This is your emotional brain. So when we want to think about trauma, when we want to think about how it affects us, like this is the age where you're learning about feelings. Literally, little kids just feel. They feel a lot, right? They're in their feelings, okay? They don't understand what they're feeling, but they definitely feel it. Right? It is the responsibility of a parent to recognize their emotional distress or emotional state and then provide a behavior to alleviate that emotional distress. So you recognize the feeling and then you provide them with the behavior to help them feel better. That is the little kid brain. Now, how does the little kid brain affect us when we're older? Well, when we feel something, we should have a behavior mechanism to alleviate that distress. So if I'm feeling like I want to say something, speak up for myself, I should follow through. If I feel like I want to leave a situation, I should follow through. If I feel like I need to, take care of some business, I need to go take care of that. So validate my emotional experience and provide myself with a behavioral mechanism to alleviate this distress. Now, what happens is we end up getting in these situations where I'm not able to get the proper response for how to deal with these emotions, so I end up shoving them down. So in a healthy environment, kids recognize feelings and then activate behaviors to alleviate distress, helping them feel better, helping them regulate, so that when they're older, they have better emotional regulation. Now, in unhealthy parents, when kids feel something, parents what? You're fine. Get over it. There's nothing wrong with you. Just be okay, all right? Shove down emotions, invalidate, right? Take away any kind of opportunity for them to have any kind of confidence in how to address their emotional state and just suppress, suppress, suppress. Well, what ends up happening is these kids grow up and they're not able to rationalize or deal with their emotional state, so they end up suppressing, suppressing, and then popping. Suppressing, suppressing, popping. Suppressing, suppressing, popping. Every time they do that, they get into relationships that they ruin friendships, opportunities, because they're not able to recognize themselves and take that time to what? Process whatever they're going through to have better outcomes later. So essentially what happens? So people that don't know how to manage their emotional state, right, end up having tantrums, running away from situations, or being in loveless relationships where they disassociate, okay? So little kid brain is your feeling brain. I don't know how to feel. Now, how do we fix that? Well, like we said earlier, feelings come from your gut, okay? Your gut's here. This is just how you're programmed. What your mind is supposed to do is what's programmed by your parents. This is nurture. This is nature. This is nurture. You're supposed to learn how to nurture yourself through your parents' guidance, right? Through the things that they told you. When you feel this, do this. When this is happening, do this. Well, when you're not receiving that input, you lack guidance within yourself. So instead of saying, what is happening to me, make a plan. It's suppress, hide, shove down, don't show, don't cry. You don't want to be weak. You don't want to show emotion. You don't want to show this. So you start feeling that pressure from inside. And this happens again because of a lack of communication skills, a lack of self-preservation skills, a lack of insight on how to develop our abilities to manage these emotional buildups. So we're lacking in a sense of what to do when we're going through this struggle. So what are we supposed to do here? The first thing I tell patients and clients is recognize what you're feeling. What is the distress? What is your little inner child telling you? What are you feeling? Okay? You take this emotional state, then you use your thoughts to understand what is happening. Okay, I feel this. I'm going to do this behavior to help alleviate this distress, right? So how we go back to like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. We have feelings, we have thoughts, and we have behaviors, right? So when my feelings are off and I don't know how to behave, I need to use my thoughts to interrupt the process to then know how to behave when I feel this in the future. Right? So we're trying to build muscle memory for a reaction to a stimulation that I currently don't have an action for. Okay? So when we don't know how to feel, the goal is to then understand how I feel, to then know what to do about how I feel. And then later on, as I build more confidence, I will feel a response inside, and I will know what the behavior necessary is to react appropriately. So, sensation, follow through. Sensation, follow through. So that's a good way to kind of understand what's happening here, right? We experience this sensation, and then we have to have a follow through to be able to validate what we're experiencing and how to distress, how to alleviate the buildup. So essentially, what are we doing here for healing our inner child, right? The feeling brain. Recognize feelings and use your adult brain to then create a plan to alleviate the buildup. As you continue to do this, you will build experience and insight so that in future scenarios and events, you will already have a mechanism to follow through so that you're able to take care of your buildup before it becomes a problem. So you won't throw tantrums, you're not going to run away from situations, and you're not going to feel like you have to disassociate in order to be in a relationship. You will be able to manage, handle, and assess and engage as needed and necessary depending on the problem. So that's how we deal with our little kid brain. It's our emotional brain that leads to discomfort and problems. You know, it leads to issues with emotional buildup. We're not able to release some of that pressure. And as we learn how to release that pressure, we're going to feel good about where we're at in our life and our progress. All right, guys. It's been good seeing you guys again. Take it easy. I'll see you guys in the next video. And again, the next couple, I'm going to talk about the different parts of brain development, including the ego and the adult brain. So we'll talk about those in future videos. All right, guys, take it easy. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Hey, guys, it's Sebastian here again today with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the second part of my series where we're going to be talking about the different stages of brain development. Today we're going to be talking about the ego, which is the brain that develops between the ages of 6 and 11. This brain development has to do a lot with one's individuality. We can kind of consider this time like consciousness. So this is the age where people start developing insight on who they are. I like to think of it as the way you're wired. So, I believe in this idea that like the world has like a type of magic to it, right? Where things just are the way they are, and that's just how it is. So the way you're wired and the things that you're interested in, the way you engage in the world, that's just kind of how you were born. So what favorite flavor soda you have, what favorite passions, hobbies, or interests, like whatever you're into, whatever completes you, validates you, helps you feel some kind of fulfillment, that's just the way you're wired. Now, during this stage of development, kids are really learning about who they are. So they're learning about their passions. So that's things they like to get involved in, things they like to experience. This could be TV shows, this could be concerts, this could be a place to go eat food. So really like your individuality starts to come out and highlight itself. So you start kind of exploring the different ideas and concepts of who you are. You also develop hobbies, which are things that you like to do with your hands. So you could be doing music, you could be learning how to do art, building stuff. So really anything that has to do with your hands has to do with hobbies. The next thing that you'll develop is interest. So the other thing you develop is like what you like to study. So maybe you really like sharks, you like space, you like, learning about whole history or different cultures or whatever. Like whatever you like to research and learn about is one of the things that we consider an interest, right? So during this stage, children will naturally seek out stimulation. They have desires, they have wants, they have things they like to engage in. So this is really an age where they're going to engage in themselves. So they have whatever their burning desire is, whatever thing they're going to want to try is what's going to guide their behaviors to want to engage in those things. So children are no longer willing to just take any kind of stimulation. They start to want specific types of stimulation. So I like to think like your ego is kind of like where your heart is. So your heart, when it has a desire, it puts a lot of effort. And when your heart doesn't desire something, it doesn't really put any effort. So this is kind of how I would visualize or consider the ego. Like the ego is like your spirit, who you are, your individuality, your confidence. And again, this is a natural age when kids start to explore who they are. They want to learn about themselves. So in healthy environments, these children will go to their parents and say, hey, I'm interested in something. An example of this might be like my son asking me he wants to play tennis, so I might get him some rackets. I might even do something a little lighter than a racket, so maybe some kind of wiffle ball with paddles, so something more his level. And so it depends what he's interested in, but by him showing interest, that's him activating a desire. Now, the thing that children don't have is they don't have an adult brain, right? So they have a feeling of something they want to do, but they really don't have a mechanism to activate that. So they may come to me and say, hey, Dad, I really want to do tennis. But he doesn't have the mechanism to call a tennis place and get the racks that he needs and understand the mechanism and the rules and know how to research like how to get involved in tennis. That's where I, as the adult, come into play and help him bridge that gap. So I may teach him different skills. I may take him to a class. I may help him watch a video. I may take him to the library and get a book about it. So like, really help him expand on his interest that he already has. So he's approaching me like, hey, Dad, I'm wired this way. I have a desire. And my job is to help him think how to get that desire activated, how to develop his self-esteem, how to develop his individuality. So really, I'm helping him develop into a healthier human being who can have autonomy and function and have a sense of confidence in who they are because they know what they like and what they're about. So yeah, your ego is really a guiding light in who you are. Now, what happens with trauma is that parents at times can say, oh, why do you want to do that? Or why do you like that? Or why do you even care about that? And so you have parents that don't activate, don't support. They may be due to lazying, parenting. They may be due to struggles with themselves knowing how to engage in passions, hobbies, and interests. So lack of insight, ignorance. There's a lot of factors that can get involved in why a parent may be unhealthy or ineffective. So essentially, again, the parent is supposed to be helping the child develop the mechanisms to activate their passions, hobbies, and interests so that when they're adult, they're able to activate these things themselves. And a way that this kind of gets interrupted is when you have an adult who's unhealthy, who again is making negative commentary on the things that you aspire to want to do or engage in. Oh, well, we don't have time for that. Or why do you want to get into that? Or there's no money for that. Or that you're never going to be good at that. Or you quit on this thing. So they're constantly looking for the commentary to kind of take away that fire, take away that desire for self-development. And so they're sitting there, picking away at your ability to develop self, which in the end causes you not to be able to gain confidence. So what happens is these people grow up and then they try to get in relationships or friendships, and they don't know who they are. So they have a hard time feeling secure in that relationship, and they have a hard time ever finding who they are in the end because they're not securing themselves. So they don't activate their passions, they don't activate their interests, they don't activate their hobbies, and they tell themselves, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have energy, and they really take away their own fuel in developing self, which just makes them more susceptible to other people's feedback and influence, and they get stuck in a cycle where they're just, caring about other people and not really self-actualizing. Now, the solution to fixing your ego, your individuality, is to recognize that the child brain has desires. So you recognize the desire that you're experiencing with your child brain. Then you would use your adult brain to then set up a plan to activate that desire. So if you have a passion, you activate, when am I going to engage that passion? If you have a hobby, how am I going to engage that hobby? If you have an interest, when am I going to study that thing? So really you're going to use your brain, right, your mind, to plan and organize yourself so that you can achieve and activate these interests. This also comes to, understand that you don't have to get into something right now. You can get into something later, but it's the fact that you've kind of planned it and have it in there that you want to get it started. So what I recommend people do is have an interest or something that you have. And again, you don't have to start it today, but just have it in the back of your mind that you want to start that process. So if you want to get into surfing, so have in mind, well, in the next 2 years, I want to get into surfing or skateboarding or paint or making models, miniature models, whatever that thing may be. That's what you're going to be looking for when it comes to that, self-development. So let's break it down here. Listen, understand my desires, activate them, find a way, organize yourself, set up a schedule, a routine, set up a way for me to come up being successful in the end. So we want to use our different brains to validate what I like and validate how I'm going to make it happen. And by doing this, you build confidence. You build value in yourself. You understand what your interests are. You understand who you are, your individuality on this planet, which gives you, again, more insight, more confidence, more power of self, right? So I want you guys to know who you are and be able to engage in what you enjoy. And remember, as a kid, right, if you didn't get a chance to, engage in these things that you enjoyed, well, now it's a time to change that and to become the adult that you always needed to activate this. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. If you have any questions, ask. I'm here to help. And, we'll be back for another video. Hey guys, Sebastian back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the adult brain and how to heal the traumas associated within the adult brain. So first we'll talk about the stages of development, how trauma affects this brain, and then how to heal that brain, okay? It's going to be a little bit complicated. This part of the brain is a little more complex than the other two, but it'll make sense once we understand. So the first thing we need to know is this is the brain where anxiety starts to kick in. This is also your thinking brain, because this is your adult brain, this is your ego, and this is your kid brain. So the adult brain is the thinker. This prefrontal cortex, this brain that we're going to be talking about, starts from 12 to 24. Now, from 12 to 15 is the first stage of the development. This is when friends or peers are the most important people in your life. So you will change parts of yourself to fit into the macro system. Right? So you will want to be like them. You will hide things about yourself. You will neglect things about yourself because you want to fit into a system. This is a good understanding of like when keeping up with the Joneses kind of kicks into the brain, okay? So this is when you actually care about other people's opinion about yourself, right? This is where the monsters are no longer just on the outside of the world. There's a monster on the inside of the world, right? So 12 to 15 is the first stage where we start thinking outside of ourselves. 16 to 19 is the age where you start thinking about your future. What do I want to do with my life? What's my sense of direction? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to the military? So like, you're really trying to understand what your goal is with your life and kind of planning in ways that you've never had planned before. So this is when kids start planning their life. 20 to 24 is the age where people start to develop independence. So they want to move out, they want to be on their own, they want to figure things out by themselves. There's a lot of push for autonomy during this stage of development. So 20 to 24, you're really trying to become peak human, peak adult mode. So you're really trying to figure out your life. So that's the stages of brain development. Now, what's important to understand about this stage is this is also when you develop trust and faith in people. So what's supposed to happen is that when someone says they're showing up on time, they show up, right? Or I'm not going to get mad at you and they don't. Or I'm not going to give away your secret and they keep it. Or when they mess up, they apologize. So they actively make efforts to improve outcomes, right? Hey, I messed up last week. I just wanted to let you know. I wanted to take ownership. So they're really, taking that ownership of the things that they do wrong, and they're helping you build trust in these individuals. Now, let's think of it from this perspective. So let's say, if we want to understand how this is going to affect a kid, well, what's going to happen to your ability to trust people? You're not going to. And even if you mentally can say, I can trust this person, physically you can't let go of that distrust because this happened during a stage of your development where you still were learning how to understand the world, right? So when people do not live up to their standards, you start to have mistrust in the world that you live in, right? So the way trauma affects us in this stage is, well, we can't be authentic with people. We hide a part of ourselves away because, we've been hurt by so many people. Well, why wouldn't this person hurt me? Of course they're going to hurt me. And so this is why it's important to develop this brain a little more and understand how to change the mechanism within this brain and what's the deficits. So let's break down, how do we fix our adult brain, our anxiety brain, the top brain, right? Well, okay, let's break it down to a couple things. So one of the biggest things we have to think about is to build trust with people. Trust is consistency over time, right? So like the more consistent you are over time, the more I can trust that you're going to be that way. Now, what has to do with this brain is this is the self-respecting brain, the individual brain. So the more that you work on your life as an individual and sustain yourself, the better you're going to feel about your life, right? So when you lose your job, you lose independence, right? When you lose your job, you also can lose some future insight and some self-respect, right? So you can see, like, just by losing a job, I already lost my independence, I lost my future, and I lost my self-respect. Because now I gotta feel like, oh, I have to tell people, and how am I gonna manage it? So there's a lot of challenges on the underbelly of that and how it can affect people in the long term. Okay, so let's talk about how do we fix this brain. Well, let's break it down to the most basic things. There's this thing called time, energy, and attention, or in other words, your T. And how does time, energy, and attention take place? Well, I want you guys to take this idea that if I tell someone, hey, let's meet at 8 o'clock, and I show up at 8 and they show up at 9:30, what have they done to my time? They did not value it. We set a time, they didn't show up, I showed up, so I spent time there and I didn't get them to show up when I needed them to, so now I've wasted more time for them, right? So you have some options here. You can either not say anything, which is validating the fact that they came late, which could potentially cause more problems right later down the line, but at least in the moment we're fine, okay? Or I could say something and give them an option like, hey, in the future when I say 8 o'clock, I mean 8 o'clock. I need you to be here, right? And you can let them kind of work with the frustration about not showing up on time, right? But at the end of the day, you did show up on time. That creates value in yourself. So when you do things that you say you're going to do and you follow through with them, you start to build value within yourself. You start to build trust within yourself because you're saying something and then you're following through with the thing that you're saying, which over time is going to build that trust within yourself. So whenever you're around other people, you'll have a good insight on what is going on with you and what is affecting you, right? So we want to be able to understand how to develop our confidence, our trust within ourselves by following through when we say we're going to do something. So your word means a lot, especially when you don't follow through with it. So how do we organize ourselves? So again, time, energy, and attention. And so really what we want to do for our adult brain to help heal that trust trauma is that we need to build trust within ourselves. We have to become the consistent people. We have to ensure that we follow our schedules, that we follow our desires, that we follow through with our passions, that we are doing the things that we keep telling ourselves that we're going to do, because that's what builds power. When people follow through with their word and they're very consistent, then your word has consistency, which again is like trust. So in order to build trust with people, we have to continue to engage in a healthy relationship over time. I also have to do this with myself. If I don't take care of myself, then I'm not going to be able to have a healthy relationship with somebody else because I don't value my own time, energy, and attention just as much as I don't value theirs. And so if we want to be able to build our independence, build our adult brain, and build that comfort within it, then we are going to have to show it that it's going to be able to, be consistent and trust itself and follow through, and that the things that I say matter and the things that people tell me matter. And the more that I work on myself, invest my time, energy, and attention into myself, the more valuable I become. If I keep giving away my time, energy, and attention to everybody else, I will never gain value. The only way to gain value is to reinvest in you, set limits with people, and continue to progress towards your desires in the way that you know is best for the way your brain operates outside everybody else. So if you want to build trust, if you want to not have that gut feeling that I can't trust anybody, well, first you have to work on yourself and invest in yourself and become so valuable that there's no way that nobody would appreciate the value that you bring. But you can only be as valuable as worthy as you build yourself to be. So keep investing your time, energy, and attention to yourself. Keep holding people accountable for their change, and keep holding yourself accountable for your own change, right? Take the time to sit there and think, how can I change this outcome and dynamic? And that's going to help you little by little trust yourself to heal that adult brain. So again, let's recap, right? What traumatizes the adult brain? A lack of ongoing trust with people, right? So a lack of ongoing trust because of all the trauma that they had as a child, right? That's going to be a big factor. So lack of ongoing trust, and how do we fix that? How to reinvest our time, energy, and attention to ourselves. So if you start investing properly into yourself, you innately build value, which is respect, and then you have more power, more control of your life, and people will definitely listen to you more often. All right, guys. So take it easy. I'll see you guys on the next one. Let me know if you have any topics you want me to talk about. And yeah, like and subscribe. Later.